Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew, and I'll be taking you through today's webinar on creating and importing course data. And as usual, today's webinar will be recorded and we'll make it available on our website later today. At the end of the webinar, I'll include a link that you can click on, which will take you to that specific page on our website. And additionally, if you have any questions during, feel free to add the questions to the live chat. Mackenzie's in there and he'll do his best to help answer those. And if there's any lingering questions at the end, I can get to those once we finish. So we'll start with just a general workflow for how course data is now managed. And the main change came about last year with the Golf Australia Connect system. And what that means is now all course data that is used for handicapping of golfers' competitions exists firstly in the Golf Connect system, and then it's transferred into our system, which we call importing. Now, in order to add data into Golf Connect, the main way is either via Golf Australia or via your state body, such as Golf New South Wales, Golf WA. And as a club admin, you will have access to Golf Connect to get into that area where the course data is. Now, you can't add a new course as such, but you can edit and modify existing course data, and I'll go through some examples of how to do that. Now, additionally, we found an online guide that Golf Australia published, which has various tutorials on how to use the Golf Connect system. So this particular module here, where it says courses and tee markers, this will give you some step-by-step instructions. You can access it via this link here. And because it is a little long, what I might do at the end, I'll copy and paste that into the chat so that way you've got easy access to click on that. Now, once you have a course in Golf Connect and you need to import it into our MiClub or OneGolf system, there's a couple of key points. And the first one is the effective date, because we can only import a course from that effective date. We don't have the ability to import something that has an effective date in the future. So when you are requesting a new course to be added from Golf Australia, make sure you give them the specific date that you need to implement it from. And in terms of the hole by hole data, I've highlighted here the 4 mandatory areas. So you need the hole number, the 1 to 18 stroke index, the par and distance filled out. Otherwise, we are not able to import it. Now, there are 2 optional fields, and that is the stroke index for plus handicaps and the 19 to 36 index. So you don't have to do those. You can if you want. And if you do decide to do the 19 to 36 index, our system will then automatically generate the 37 to 54 hole index as well. And so you can do this also in stages. You can import a course, or we can import a course just with the basic mandatory data. And then later on, if you wanted to add the optional fields, we can then import that as a change. And I'll show you how to do that as well. Now also with Golf Connect, if you do have specific questions about issues with editing or adding course data in Golf Connect, the best option is to reach out to Golf Australia directly. Okay, so we'll go through some examples. So the first example is a new course or a temporary 18-hole course with a standard hole order. Now, let's say you've added the course in Golf Connect. What will happen on the competitions page in our system, you'll get this import interface where it shows a list of available courses to import. So we're going to choose this one, temp 16 and 17 short. Click on import. Then takes you to the mapping page. Now, by default, our system will always try and map any new course to the GA course. You'll see it pop up on the list first. Now, we don't recommend importing any temp courses into your GA course, and I'll explain a little bit why later on. So instead, what we suggest you do is change to a new course. And once you select new, you'll then see the pop-up option to add a name and a description. We recommend matching the name to the description. There's also an additional toggle called My Score Social Active. Now, if you want this particular course to be available for players to use when they're doing social scoring in My Score, make sure you toggle this on. And in the name, I recommend just copying and pasting whatever name you put here into there. And if you don't want the course available in MyScore Social, just make sure this is set to no, or to off, sorry. Cool. Now, once you've named your course, you then get a list of team markers to import. So you just select them, you go down through and select them. And if you're not sure, if you've got team markers with similar names and you're not sure, you can match it in Golf Connect. This interface screen in our system on the left mirrors exactly what's in Golf Connect. So you'll see the description of each team marker is identical. So if you're not sure, go into Golf Connect, select the team marker, look at the data, and then if that's the one you need, then you can come back in here and select it. Now, then you get to the next page where you define the specifics of each team marker. By default, our system will just copy whatever name was here. It'll populate that into the new team marker field there. Now, we recommend you don't modify that. You keep it consistent so that way you can always know which course it is that you've imported from Golf Connect. And with the T colors, you do get an option of a primary and secondary color. The secondary option is really for a multicolored tee. So if you do have a multicolored tee that you're using, you can pick two colors. If it's just one single color, just choose the primary color. You can choose one of the predefined options, or you can define a custom hex color in that field there if you need to. Cool. Then once you've done that, the system will show you underneath a hole by hole list of all of the data. Just give it a quick read through, make sure it looks good. Then you can select next. And then you get to the final review page. It will show you a summary of everything that you've tried to import. Go down to the bottom, save. And that imports the course into our system and it removes it from the interface on the competitions page. Now I'll show you one similar example where it doesn't work, and it's due to the effective date. So here's another course that we're importing, the Temp 3 course. It's available here to import on our interface. But what you'll notice when you get to the selection page, this one that we're wanting to import, Temp 3, is not in the list. And it's all because of the effective date. Because the effective date is in the future, you won't be able to import it. So in this case, you'd have to go back into Golf Connect and make the change to backdate it so we can import it, which is in this section here in Golf Connect. Cool. So now we're going to do another example, but this time, and this is probably more typical of what you will experience, where you have a non-standard hole order or you have hole prefixes. So we're doing an example of importing a new temp course, which has a non-standard hole order, and we're going to try and import it into a GA course. And what you'll find is you'll get this kind of error, which is called hole order mismatch. And what it means is, and I've got the screenshots here from Golf Connect, this is the GA course. The front 9 goes 1 through 9 in the standard order. This temp course that we're trying to import skips hole 2, and then it goes 3 through 9, and then has 19. So because they're not matching, our system won't let you import this temp course and link it to your GA course. Now, I'll show you two ways that you can fix it. The first option, option A, is where you just import a brand new course. So this is what it looks like. You've got your non-standard hole order. When you're doing your importing, instead of selecting GA course, you're selecting new, as we covered in the first example, and then you're giving that course a distinct name, so it's separate in our system. Now, there's another example where you've got a hole prefix. So by prefix, we mean where you've got a letter next to the number, so 9A, 13A, 13B, etc. This will cause the same mismatch if you're trying to import this into a normal 1 to 18 course. So in this option here, you are again choosing new course and giving it a unique name. Now, the second option is to rename the whole order in Golf Connect. So if we use this course with the whole prefixes, if you go back into Golf Connect, you can change these and get rid of the A's. So now you have your standard 1 through 18 whole order, and the system will allow you to map this temp course to your GA course. Now, we generally recommend not doing that. And the reason is mainly due to making it easier to manage your comps. So here's an example where you have multiple tees all linked to the same course, the same GA course, and you see on your competition tee selection, it can be very messy, especially if you have different staff members setting up comps on different days. They can easily get confused and select the wrong tee. Now, if you want to do this, it's totally fine. It's up to you. If you think you can manage it that way and you're happy to do it, go for it. But if you're not sure, we recommend not doing this. We recommend separating them, where you have your GA course with your standard, 8 or so tee markers, and then every temp course you're importing separately. So when you set up your comp, you're just choosing your temp course, and then you've got the limited tee selection there. Now, the second mismatch you can have is where, and this is an example where we're importing a brand new temp course and you've got multiple tee colors, but there's a mismatch between the tee colors. So in Golf Connect, the blue version of the new course has 9A on the front nine, but the red version has 1A and 1B instead of 9A. So this all has to match. And the way to fix it is to go back into Golf Connect and either change the red or the blue so it's all consistent, and then you'll avoid that whole mismatch error. Yeah, that's just explaining the same thing. Cool. Now we'll do a 9-hole course, and 9-hole course is basically the same exact process, just on the first import screen. By default, it has an 18-hole selection. Change it to 9, and then if you're doing a new course, give it the new name. There's one small little detail on the next page. The system has a toggle for front and back 9. So I think by default, you'll see the front 9 courses in the list down the bottom, and all you need to do is toggle that to off, and you get the back 9 courses instead. But then it's the same process, basically. And we'll now cover the case where you've got a course in our system already and you've done an update in Golf Connect and how that looks on the import interface. Firstly, any change that's made in Golf Connect shows up on our interface as update rather than import. So that lets you know that it's an existing course in our system. So you can go ahead and hit update. This is an example where you're changing indexes or distances. You'll see the overall par rating hasn't changed. So when you get to this page, it will show you hole by hole what's changing. So you've got index change here, 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 and you've got distance changes there. So you can go, once you reviewed that and you're happy with the changes, go through and hit submit, and it'll automatically update that course in our system with the new data. Now, the next version is where you have a par change, but the par change is based on certain holes, but it hasn't changed the overall. So if you look here, you've got multiple pars changing up and down, but you're keeping the same 72 overall rating. And again, you just go through, hit submit, and it'll update those individual pars in our system. And another case where you've got no hole data changing, but you've got an overall slope and scratch. At the top section there, it'll show you what is changing. And same thing, par stays the same at 72, but you just hit next and it'll update the course ratings in our system. So the only time this falls down and where it doesn't work is when you have an overall par mismatch. You'll get this validation error, and you basically have to import it as a brand new course in our system. There may be cases where if you run into this error and you don't want it, you can maybe call us in this situation if you're unsure, because what can happen, you can end up with a duplicate if you're importing, like this is a blue T marker on a GA course. If you've changed the par of the blue marker, if you go ahead and select import new course, it'll import it. But then what you'll find is you'll have two blue markers, one with a par 72, the existing one, and one with a par 70. So probably in this case, I would recommend you reach out to the support team and we can maybe talk you through it and make sure we don't end up with a duplicate. But in all the previous cases, just go ahead and follow the procedure that it's showing you. Cool, so that's pretty much all the examples of importing and updating. Now there are some side effects of when you do this, and I'll take you through the most common one, and it relates to T markers being unselected for competitions. So what you'll find happens if you've got competitions already set up for the future and you've saved your available and default Ts. If then you do an import or an update on this GA course, what you'll find is it unselects the markers for your comp. So you probably notice you're running your comp, the handicaps are wrong, or you can't register players. If you go into the manage tees area for your comp, you'll see there's nothing selected. And so what you'll have to do if you are doing an import or an update of courses, make sure to go through and resave any future competitions that are already created. It will also do the same thing for your comp templates. So if you go into your template area, set up comp templates, and you then select rounds for each of those templates, you'll find the same thing. And so if you were to use one of these templates to make a new comp without the T markers being resaved, you'll end up in the same problem when you're running your comp, that your handicaps are wrong and you can't register players. So very important that when you are doing the import process, you do remember to do this step as well. And it's something that we'll try and remind you of. If you call us for help to do imports and updates, we'll try and remind you to update your templates and your future comps. It doesn't, just to be clear though, once you've resaved your templates and saved the future comps, any new comp that you create will be fine. It's only the existing ones. Okay, now we'll look at some cases where you have a non-standard hole, total number of holes, so like 10 to 15, for example. And Golf Australia does allow you to handicap on these courses played between 10 and 15 holes. There's just a very specific process. So firstly, instead of you importing the data in Golf Connect, you contact us and we import the data in your system. So in this case, we'll set up it's a 12-hole course. You've got a 12-hole par rating. And what we do then is, based on GA's rule that the first 9 holes need to be handicapped, we will use the UID and the slope and scratch ratings from your your front 9 version of that course. So what happens then is the player gets 2 handicap ratings and 2 scores. So I'll show you, it makes more sense in the competition example. So firstly, when you've got a 12-hole course, for example, we'll use an 18-hole daily handicap and 18-hole index. So in the competition and on the leaderboard, the players will be playing off their daily 18-hole handicap, and they get then a score for the 12 holes that they've completed. However, then when you go to the score upload page, you'll notice they're getting their 9-hole daily handicap. And the comp score you'll see is the same, but what's getting sent for handicapping is the handicap score. And the handicap score is based on the 9-hole daily handicap. So players are essentially getting 2 different scores, one for the competition and then a separate one for handicapping. And then I'll take you through an example where you might have just a novelty course or a novelty event and you don't need to do handicapping. So in that case, there's no link to Golf Connect, so we would need you to send us the hole-by-hole data of what you need. So there's a spreadsheet that we've got that we can send to you if you need. You just put in your hole-by-hole data, and then we will create it in our system. Now, because it's not linked to Golf Connect, when you're looking in your course area, generally for most of your courses, you'll see this column called DG with a little green tick. That just means the course is available and set up in Golf Connect, and there's a link to our system. However, for this 12-hole course, which is for novelty events, you'll see that it's totally blank, which means you can't send scores for handicapping. If you try to, the system will give you an error. Now, in this case, if you're setting up this novelty course, if you don't know the ratings, we can give you a generic slope and scratch rating. And that covers everything for today. So as I mentioned, the recording will be available later this afternoon via this link here. It also contains all of our previous webinars that will be recorded covering different parts of the MiClub and My Membership systems. And if you keep an eye on this page, periodically we'll post the upcoming webinars and what the new topics will be, so you can have a look and see what's coming up. And I will now just quickly check if there were any questions. Just give me one moment. And a question from Matthew is, are you able to go over how to toggle a course on/off for MyScore social rounds? So when you're doing the initial import, Matt, where it shows you that option, MyScore social active, that's your opportunity to enable it. If you forgot to do it at that stage, and so you've imported the course that's not enabled for MyScore Social, and then later you need to enable it, you'll need to reach out to us in the support team, and we can easily do that for you. And we can also change the names in MyScore Social as well if that's something you need to do. Cool. Yeah. If anyone has any other questions specifically to the setup of your club, I know everyone has slightly different ways of managing temp courses. Feel free to reach out to us if you need help managing your course area. Like if you've got a lot of temp courses that you're no longer using and it kind of clutters your list, we can help you archive some of those or rename them, join them together. Anything relating to management of course data in our system, we can definitely help. If you need help on the Golf Connect side, then yeah, I would recommend reaching out to GA and they'll be able to help you there. So Lorraine, I'm assuming you're a social club that doesn't have your own course and we imported Ocean Shores into your club. Is that correct? If that is the case and you found when you got to the course that they had a temp set up and it didn't match what we imported, yeah. So in that case, Lorraine, you'll have to call us. I know if you don't find out until the morning of you playing, it's very hard to fix it quickly. But if we've imported like a standard GA course and you get to the club and they're playing a course with temp holes, we have to import that temp course into your site. So yeah, you have to call us. We have support available, every day of the week from 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So reach out to us and we'll do our best to help you on the spot. Question from Dan, is it possible to change the permanent length of one hole for one tee without setting up a new course and losing all the score data from years gone by, assuming the course ratings won't change? Yes. So we went through some examples of importing and changes. If you're changing hole index, distance, or hole pars, that's not importing a separate course. You leave the same course and it just updates over the top of that. So it doesn't change any of your reporting. It keeps the same course in the system, just with an update. And so whether that's a permanent distance change or temporary distance change, it doesn't matter. The only issue you have is if the overall par rating changes, we can't update the existing course. It needs to be imported as a duplicate, basically, and then we would archive the original par length. So in your example, it's totally fine. You just update, you change the data in Golf Connect, update, and it keeps the same course just with a new distance. Cool. I think we might wrap it up there. Like I said, yeah, anything specifically you need, please reach out. Thank you. The webinar will be available later today. Apologies for that little glitch at the start. That was my fault. I was just talking to myself, it turns out. But thank you, Mackenzie, for letting me know. And yeah, have a good day, guys. I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.